Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable members, senators and former members seated in the well, excellencies of the diplomatic corps, His Worship the Mayor of Kingston, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the gallery, patriotic Jamaicans here and in the diaspora listening, watching and following virtually via the media. We all give God thanks for sparing us individually and collectively so that we can meet here to discuss the business of the nation, report on the achievements of the fiscal year past, and consider the plans and programs for the year coming. Mr. Speaker, our Thanksgiving is appropriate. Though we had our share of climate variability resulting in unseasonal rain and flooding and consequently negative economic impact, we have been spared the total devastation wreaked upon our neighbours in the region, for whom we again spare a thought. Mr. Speaker, I'm always humbled when I consider the awesome responsibility entrusted to me by the people of Jamaica to lead the management of public affairs and create the environment in which our people can self-actualize. I do not carry this responsibility alone. I stand here literally with my family in this house. My wife Juliet is a member in her own right. I stand here with an astute and innovative team of advisors. I stand here with a responsible and enterprising cabinet of ministers. I stand here with diligent and committed chairmen and members of boards. I stand here because of effective and efficient permanent secretaries, heads of agencies, and their staff. I stand here because of strong supporters and constituents who thought it important to exercise their civic responsibility to vote. I stand here in partnership with civil society, the church, and the private sector. I stand here bolstered by the hope and prayers of every well-thinking Jamaican who believes that Jamaica will increase in peace and prosperity. I stand here by the grace of Almighty God. I stand here, Mr. Speaker, to make a difference in the lives of the people of this country. And though some may wrongly characterize politics as nasty and brutish, it is undoubtedly the means by which the widest and the most profound changes can be made to the lives of the largest number of people. I want to start my presentation today speaking about how we are solving a problem that will make a big difference in the lives of many. For some, it may be a small problem, but I want to exemplify the point. that small actions can make a big difference. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, I've spent the last 2 years focusing on roads and gullies, and it has really lifted the built environment of the constituency. This year, I will turn my attention to improving the housing stock. This is especially critical as many of the houses in their current condition pose a fire hazard. And many MPs in here can identify with this. Come summer, we know the number of fires increase. A member from Central Kingston, a member from West Kingston, South End. We all know that the housing stock is really in need of attention. But there's another problem, Mr. Speaker. In January of this year, 4 children, a 1-year-old twins, and 2 3-year-olds, 4 children, perished in a fire that destroyed their homes in my constituency. A lit candle started the fire. Although electricity was on the premises, this particular household was without, and they relied on open flame lighting at night. It is the case that there is a significant number of rural and urban households without electricity connections, or that are disconnected pending payment, that rely on open flames as their source of light. As a result, every year right across Jamaica, and I have tracked several cases in my constituency, we see these tragic incidents of children perishing in fires ignited by candles and lamps. Mr. Speaker, so far this year, there have been 13 deaths due to fires, 8 adults and 5 children. With simple and inexpensive actions, government can make a difference in the lives of energy-poor households, and particularly and significantly reduce or virtually eliminate the risk of these tragic fires. I have therefore directed the Minister of Science, Energy and Technology to develop a program to make solar lamps available to energy-poor households. And an initial quantity of 5,000 solar lamps have already been secured, and a system of identifying and distributing these solar light solutions to needy households is being developed. Using solar solutions to replace open flame light sources is an established policy response to address energy poverty, and there are many such programs successfully implemented all over the world. This is a real opportunity for social enterprise to support the ecosystem around the production, installation, user education, servicing, and recycling of these solar lamps. To this end, I have directed the HOPE program to develop a national service corps to support all elements of this program and to work with existing social entrepreneurs in this area. These would include members of our Jamaican diaspora, such as Nathaniel Peat of GeNNex, which is a renewable energy company that is providing this very service in countries in Africa. We are not just giving solar lamps. We want to make it so convenient and practical to use these solar lamps that households no longer use open flame lighting sources such as candles and lamps. After the full implementation of this program, no child should perish in a house fire caused by a candle or a lamp used for lighting. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you will agree with me that too often the investigations into these fires reveal that the parent or legal guardian left the child in the care of another person who themselves are either children or not capable of taking care of children. While this program will remove one of the risk factors in such fires, ultimately, however, parents and guardians are responsible for the safety, care, and protection of their children. We must educate, support, and empower our parents so that those who want to do better will, while ensuring that the organs of the state are in a position to protect children from those parents who refuse. Mr. Speaker, Jamaica faces a solid waste management crisis. I get the complaints all the time that our built environment is not looking as clean as it should. I get complaints about Kingston City in particular, some of our rural towns. This is evident in our towns and cities, rural areas, waterways, on our beaches, and in the sea. The main evidence of this crisis is the prevalence of improperly disposed of and unrecycled plastic all over our natural and built environment. It is not just a nuisance. It is a devaluing of the cleanliness of our environments, a real threat to our ecosystems, and the efficient working of our civil infrastructure. There have been many attempts at introducing national solutions for proper disposal of plastics. We continue to work on a complete solution to this complex, multi-sectoral, and multifaceted issue. With the collaborative action of stakeholders through the National Partnership Council, the Partnership for Prosperity, the private sector has presented the government with a proposal for a plastic bottle return system, which will see funding coming from the private sector for a deposit and payout on return mechanism. The consensus on the part of the producers and users of plastic bottles is a major step in overcoming improper disposal of plastic bottles. The government will support the plastic bottle return system with the necessary regulatory and financial support where possible. There are other initiatives being considered by the government with regards to plastic bags, plastic packaging materials, and styrofoam. Senator Matissa Muda is here in the well. He brought a resolution to the Senate proposing a ban on styrofoam. That, amongst other things, are being considered. And at a later date, the decisions of the government will be made known in this regard. But until then, I believe that we are making progress with the private sector themselves coming on board to develop this system of buying back plastic bottles and putting up the cash themselves for the initial start-off of the project. And I think that's a simple action that is going to make a big difference to our environment. I want to talk, Mr. Speaker, about action on hope. Action is hope, which is action. Hope is the flagship social intervention and support program of the government. It focuses on targeted assistance with housing support, education, training, and economic opportunities, support for persons in productive activities in communities, and engagement towards sustained employment. A critical element of the HOPE program is the engagement of youth through a system of apprenticeship and national service called LEGS, which means learning and earning while giving and saving. HOPE is helping our people to excel. Mr. Speaker, the exposure given to our young people under the HOPE projects allow them to build life skills, positive attitudes, and attributes of good citizens. We want to maximize the potential of all our young people and provide opportunities for them to self-actualize. Let me report on some successes so far. More than 14,000 young people were engaged through the Hope Youth Summer Program, and we have just started the recruitment process for this summer. Over 5,000 unattached young people were trained in core skills, values, and attitudes, and are ready for placement. 2,000 interns have been placed in various National Service Corps across government, in agencies including the UDC, the National Housing Trust, National Water Commission, the Port Authority, National Land Agency, the Administrator General's Department. They are working in digitization, GIS mapping, maintenance, and customer service. 380 youth have been trained in document digitization under the Youth Employment in Digital and Animation Industry, the YEDI project, and are now placed. Mr. Speaker, more opportunities will come on stream this year. 500 young persons will be placed at the Ministry of Health in the Vector Control Corps and the Medical Assistant Corps. This will help, Mr. Speaker, with disease prevention. They will go around in communities to look at things like breeding sites for mosquitoes. You agree with that, member, from North Clarendon? They will go into communities and advise on the proper disposal of garbage. These are all important things that our young people can do. They can learn the skills, they earn from it, they are giving back to the society, and built into the program is compulsory civics. 6,000 young persons will be placed across ministries, departments, and agencies in documentation and the digitization core, in keeping with our policy of digitizing the government. 1,000 interns will be placed at the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries as part of the verification and audit core. What will they be doing in that core, Mr. Speaker? I see the minister looking at me. The minister is well aware. He is the one who devised it himself, and the minister without portfolio. Mr. Speaker, too often we get statistics coming from the field. These statistics need to be checked. We need to create and update the registry of farmers. We need information on the crops that are growing. These young people will be trained, attached to the ministry, the MICAF ministry, and sent out to assist the extension officers and other program officers in ensuring that they get the right information. They are not extension officers. In other words, we don't have 1,000 extension officers, precisely. So this will help to bolster their agricultural aids. So, Mr. Speaker, the National Youth Program will now be absorbed under the National Unattached Youth Program will now be absorbed under the HOPE program, and the aim is to double the number of persons that are engaged per constituency. Per constituency. Mr. Speaker, we will now engage 200 per constituency, targeting a total of 12,600 young persons to be now attached and contributing to the productivity of the nation. Mr. Speaker, I heard the complaint of parliamentarians And I'm a firm believer that we must include the parliamentarians in these kinds of projects. And so I've given a direction that the constituencies get an allocation. So the MPs are excellent agents, I find, in identifying the young people who are in need and who are right for placement in these projects. So I'm hoping to get the full cooperation of the members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, all ministries are on board and budgetary allocations are made accordingly to ensure that adequate funding is in place. In addition, Hope has secured $60 million through the Development Bank of Jamaica to increase training and placement island-wide. The Jamaica Information Services has benefited from over $28 million from the Chase Fund to digitize the archives, which contains video footage, photographs, and audio files compiled over the decades. This project will employ persons from the Hope program who will be trained in media archive management skills and intellectual property management. This will not only provide our young people with marketable skills and experience that makes them more employable, but it will open up opportunities for innovation and players in the creative industry to use print and electronic material that will promote Jamaica. It is the intention of this government to provide more opportunities to set our young people on the path to achieving prosperity. Mr. Speaker, now more than ever before, more unattached youth are being engaged in meaningful ways and increasing their productivity. Mr. Speaker, we are giving them legs to step up in life. They are learning, earning, giving back, and saving. Mr. Speaker, let me again note for the record the JDF support for the LEGS initiative with the recruiting of new members. The Jamaica National Service Corps have already completed 2 batches of recruit training of over 220 persons each batch. They are now undergoing further development training at varying stages of their initial 1-year engagement. A 3rd batch is currently going through basic training, and they are scheduled for completion in June 2018, at which time a 4th batch will commence their training. This batch is now going through the process of signing up for full service as enlisted soldiers. And I must point out that all of them have chosen to enlist as full soldiers. Mr. Speaker, the new process of recruiting members for service in the JDF through the initial 1-year national service period is widely accepted and supported. In the future, I hope to promote a policy where every unattached male between 18 and 24 has to do a compulsory 1-year national service with the JDF. Were it not for resource constraint, Mr. Speaker, I would have brought that policy to Parliament already. And I know that I am not the only one who feels strongly about this. I know if the member from Central Kingston were here, he would stand up and applaud that. For unattached, so the policy would be for all unattached youth, 18 to 24, not going to school, no prospects of employment, must do 1-year national service. That would, of course, take significant resources. But we have started now. We have started. And as the economy grows and the country prospers, we will be moving in that direction. It's important, Mr. Speaker, because I was involved in a campaign recently which elected the member from Northwest, St. Andrew. And while on the campaign trail, I met someone who person turned out to be a football coach. And he made a very profound point to me. He says, you don't know that the gangs are recruiting. He said, as a coach, he is competing